If we receive any message, I will indicate that our researchers make. Even though we have maintained multiple space missions in the goal of looking for life in places other than Earth. Normally don't go in the other direction, yes, that recently altered. In fact, researchers have discovered a new space traveler arrived and took with it. Hello and welcome to KYC News. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. What is this enigmatic guest doing here? What it might signify for the welfare of humanity nevertheless. Before we see the visitor, I'm going to look back on 2017 to make sense of the current situation. Trillions of space rocks are in the solar, many more outside our solar system of it, but the telescopes on the spacecraft and lasers that we still use on Earth studying them day and night anyway, due to the fact that any information we might learn more about the rocks that are flying in space could drastically alter an event. Hence, there is no time to leave a stone unturned, unstudied, whereas researchers spend all day on it. We've never had a nighttime steady space. Did anything significant enter our, even if we did, it would typically be near the farthest point of our solar system if it moves quickly enough to do so, even that. The extreme pressure that objects experience in order to have an interstellar make it even marginally close to being recognized by the Earth's machines was never actually intended to be. Thus it what the researchers are searching for. Picture the shock went on for so the University of on October 19th. 2017 Pan-Hawaiian Stars 1 telescope. You may observe these telescopes in action on the program for observing near-Earth objects. It's the research department. Anything that may be visible in the open, all of the rock satellites are in space. Despite pollution, gases, nothing gets past these people because of this. They were permitted to board. The data was quickly brought in and discovered later came to be known as oumuamua. Oumuamua wasn't just a typical young child. It was unlike anything in space. They had never witnessed anything quite like that. It's odd that everyone was informed. A routine visitor when researchers study the rocks in space, they are internal. But oumuamua wasn't a planet in our solar system. It had managed to change from an ordinary rock to the area of Earth from beyond our own solar system that is almost unattainable. No, obviously, an object without bursters is thought to be strong enough to take considering interstellar travel. Thus oumuamua even reached Earth. Puzzling, but then things turned around. Scarier, no symptoms of oumuamua's slowing down were present. The opposite, it was accelerating when he approached Earth, but only to then perform a harp in orbit and return to the roughly where it came from. When the scientists undertook a deep dive into the information they had gathered, they discovered that oumuamua had not only steadily accelerated as it approached Earth, but accelerated multiple times during the travel to and from Earth. However, since it's a rock, it lacks in what's going on, bursters or engines. That was the concern that pervaded everyone in the division, and effectively responding to it not getting any simpler. The original hypotheses initially, the researchers believed that the Earth was being approached by an asteroid. Typically when a random space appears, it is always a rock orbiting the sun. It is categorized as an asteroid due to the fact that before the speed and everything else that raised doubt, that's how oumuamua initially appeared. However, following data processing, and the rock abruptly reversed its course. There was no doubt that this piece of rock wasn't an asteroid, but something else. Specifically, the issue was that due to the speed this enigmatic the guest was passing through our time in the solar system was crucial, because researchers had to determine within the time frame everything they desired. 11 days. During those 11 days, they would gradually be capable of gathering less and fewer data. Such the worse it would be the longer they take. Receive no pressure, however, right? Not surprisingly, things grew worse when they sought to categorize oumuamua as an exocomet. The name of a very large telescope in Chile was, as you may already be aware, things are when the enormous telescope is serious must visit and inspect the situation. It was entrusted with attempting to determine the object's measurements are not exactly known, merely that, but to advance the information further and determine the hue of its orbit and radiance. Recording each and every ridge and the rock's particulars were crucial in this point, that nothing similar to this has ever previously. You'd assume that things would become clearer when the information arrived, but it all worked out in the end more perplexing. The cigar of space, think of rock And roll when you want to, what would you call it? An asteroid? A comet? Try to imagine something vague. Rounded, right, which is why most things are rounded in space, or at least substantially spherical. It's not just a coincidence either. The majority of the atoms in an item are gravitationally drawn to one another, whether the sun is involved or not. Otherwise, there is always a problem. The atom is spherical plus as a result of conditions in an open area, including pressure, debris, and the necessity for further increases the rounder atoms. Hence, one of the most prominent aspects of oumuamua, who simply perplexed everyone, its shape wasn't even spherical. Remotely, the situation was simple. What's shaped like a massive space cigar, the scale of it is even more absurd. Had a 200-meter or so radius and was 10 times wider than it was long. We had never seen anything like it before. Preferably inside our solar system prior, what is diameter of 287.46 billion kilometers. Imagine being one in approximately 3 billion people. Considering all that horrifying information, even discovered that oumuamua was crimson like a burned red, that many objects are only the outer planets of our solar system, or they obtain their color from the thing. Nevertheless, the surrounding dust oumuamua was completely dust-free. It is made of metals and rocks, with no water, ice, or other substances. Given that construction, you might assume that this big rock would be moving rather quickly. Despite the fact that it moved slowly, varying throughout its journey, yet no, the enormous space cigar merely desired to continually surprise everyone. Actually, it was moving at 85,700 speed in miles per hour is one of the reasons this was taking place, and it wasn't just oumuamua is being drawn towards the sun by gravity. However, a second force, one that we weren't able to see, was attempting to force it past the sun system, directing it or pushing it based on the velocity and overall trajectory of paper. The researchers were able to determine at which the object was hurled. Earth's distance from the star Vega, which star in the sky is the brightest Lyra's northern constellation. Although due to the distance it has traveled for, despite the fact that it was moving generally of 59,000 miles per hour, it hasn't even reached Vega over the past 300,000 years, which also indicates Vega wasn't present. When oumuamua traversed the area, it almost seemed like the more details, the Messier items, were found by the scientists. Notwithstanding the fact that space is, there is still something unpredictable that ought to even remotely work, but it wasn't an asteroid, so it was nothing. It was neither a comet nor even a meteor. The solar system, anything weird that has never been seen before, because now that it has already traveled, it's feasible to travel outside the solar system. That it wouldn't return, or will we? A frequent visitor, we've already discussed how uncommon it is, was to encounter oumuamua in the solar system. How scientists have found it to be the only thing have been attempting to determine, for just to return with more after all these years, questions than solutions. But now the situation has become increasingly interesting. It appears like we're actually scientists discover oumuamua while searching when an item similar to it enters our solar system and looks out over the area at, because it is so little, at least once a year data, and how far away it appears to be, it hasn't actually been seen before. But with the advent of telescopes like Pan-STARRS, when one is working, we are receiving data we've never had before. Hence, if this item does it yearly, could it get around the solar system? Actually be a rock-throwing inanimate object traversing space, or perhaps an ingeniously disguised spacecraft observing what we're doing? That seems a little bit too far-fetched, right? Nonetheless, Paul Chodas, the center's manager for studying near-Earth objects, very literally stated that there is an odd visitor from a distant star system that resembles. There is nothing like it in our own solar system. System community, what makes things even crazier is the guest is that what they've named the object oumuamua is translated literally as Hawaiian to a distant messenger being early. What does this mean? Messenger wants to let us know, and why simply scanning the solar system it? Or does NASA already understand that the visitor was conveying a point? We'll simply have to wait until the following visit to investigate oumuamua further, unless it reaches us first. With that bizarre sound, we'll end today's video with a last question. What is happening with oumuamua? Let's, as usual, let us know in the comments section. Please give this video a like if you enjoy it. Give it a thumbs up and see you all soon.